The Center for Great Plains Studies conference confronting the legendary Great Plains featured author Rebecca Clarren. She's no stranger to ICT, as many of her stories cover the West and Native American issues. Her newest book confronts her own past, The Cost of Free Land, Jews, Lakota, and an American Inheritance. It tells the personal story of her family homesteading in South Dakota.
As you know, I had been throughout my career fortunate enough to write about Native nations in various Native communities throughout the region, and it took me such a kind of embarrassingly long time to put the dots together to realize, oh, but my own family's story isn't unconnected from the policies and the legacy of the policies that I've spent all these years writing about. That's my story. I can find myself in that history in the way that I benefited from the cost of those land-taking policies to the Lakota. I found research that showed how Jewish immigrants did so well so quickly in these what they called frontier towns, the places where there hadn't been white people for very long, and Jews, because the class structure was different, Jews could translate their success in business very quickly to political success. And there are all these small communities in the American West where Jews were the mayors or senators. But what no one writes about in those histories is, well, that's because those communities had so recently been taken from Native nations that they were built on broken treaties. And so the way Jews are having this quick success is totally connected to America's treatment of Native people. Listening to the elders in my family and collecting these stories. And also, because I'm a journalist, I couldn't help but be listening to the story and also listening to what wasn't being said, or listening to the stories that were told exactly the same, or the ones, very importantly, that were told differently in different branches of the family, and starting to think about why. What is that telling me too? I also got to spend a lot of time listening to Lakota elders, and that was really wonderful. I had this trove of treasures of my family because we don't throw anything away. And so I had literally thousands of pages of original documents. I had 30-day diaries that had belonged to my great-grandmother. I had letters written in Yiddish. I had tax returns from like 1911. I had all of this material. And yet, yeah, I wanted to, and I had all these family stories, but I wanted something that resembled a fact. And so I went to the deeds office between 1908 and 1970 when my family owned land in South Dakota. And then I pulled every mortgage that was taken out on those lands. And I created Excel spreadsheets and did math and had people check my math. And what I learned was that when you adjust for inflation, the value of those mortgages is $1.1 million in today's. And they weren't just mortgages, some of them were loans from the federal government when in the 20s, the United States created policy to help farmers stay afloat. And that money made such a tremendous impact on my family's fortune, I believe, because it really helped us create other businesses and buy new homes and move and get a start in America.
Clarren's family left Russia for America to escape Great Oppression.
My great-great-grandfather was beaten to within an inch of his life in a terrible pogrom. My great-great-grandmother's younger brother the story is that when he was 6 years old, he was conscripted into the Russian army and taken away and converted to Russian Orthodox. My Aunt Etta, who's 91 years old, in the 70s, she has a great interest in history, and she in the 70s interviewed distant cousins of ours who had grown up in the shtetls. Jews could not own land. My great-great-grandfather was trained as a smith, but Jews couldn't be in the gold and silver guilds, so he could only work with tin. I think Jews so often, American Jews, because we have been so oppressed and are still so oppressed, frankly, there's still so much anti-Semitism, kind of often give ourselves a pass on the question of whether we could become part of an oppressive system. And I think, of course, we can. And it's important to muddy those narratives and see the much bigger complexity of these stories. My book came out October 3rd. And the first question I got at Powell's Books on October 3rd was, when you wrote this book, did it make you think about Israel? And then October 7th happened. I think the histories, I didn't set out to write a comparative history of America and the Middle East. I'm not a Middle East scholar, but if you read the book, it's on the page in subtle places that I wanted people to start to make these connections between the way America has treated Native people and the way that Israel has treated Palestinians. And it's not a perfect match. It's not apples to apples, and particularly because so many Jews consider themselves indigenous to Israel. But there are so many rhymes and resonances, and it's so upsetting to me what's happening and in the Middle East and all of the suffering that is happening there. And the way my ears are especially attuned when I hear both Netanyahu's government and Hamas describing the other side with, and as savages, as barbarians, this language that dehumanizes. And I immediately am thinking, that's how America described Native people for centuries and justified their extermination. And it hurts me to hear those echoes. Hitler was inspired to treat the Jews in Europe by the way America had treated Native and Black people here, and how even his lawyers, when they were trying to figure out how to diminish Jewish citizenship rights, they studied American laws and history. And I mean, there's so many horrible examples of eugenics, the way that the reservations were the inspiration for concentration camps, the way that people in concentration camps, as you know, were starved almost. And that was an idea Hitler and the Nazis took from the way that the United States didn't feed the Lakota and other nations enough to kind of prevent them from rebelling and having the energy to fight back.